Hello, this is Ms. DB. In this video we're going to look at how to do some of the problems from the writing and solving linear equations from real-world problems. You should have already done the assignments on slope-intercept and point-slope form before you do this, and on standard form, so the other assignments from this week. Alright, so this is just a reminder of slope-intercept form and point-slope form. You may also need standard form, which is ax plus by equals c. So for most of these problems, you're going to follow these steps. There's a few exceptions, but I've put some notes in the hints version of this worksheet. So once you read your problem, they'll give you enough information to write some points from the information given, usually 2 points. Then you will need to find the slope using the slope formula, which is you subtract the y values, that's the rise, and you put that over the difference of the x values, which is the run. And that will be equal to m. M is your slope. Then you'll use the slope, which you just found, m, in one of the points that you wrote from step 1 to write the equation of the line in point-slope form. And here's the form for point-slope form. Y minus the y value of one of those points equals the slope times x minus the x value of that same point. A lot of times then for step 4 you'll have to simplify this equation and write it in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and then analyze what that means to answer the question, which will be different for the different questions. Alright, here's an example of those steps. Heather transplants a new plant. In the 4th week, she finds the plant is 10 inches tall. They give you this information so that you can write one of your points. And in the 10th week, she finds that the plant is 16 inches tall. You can use this to write another one of your points. Assuming the plant grows linearly with time, write an equation describing this problem in slope-intercept form. So we will need to do step 4, write it in slope-intercept form. Then find the y-intercept, which is the height of the plant when first transplanted. Alright, so write the points. So for the yellow information, the 4th week, that's 4. The plant is 10 inches tall, so you can write 4, 10 for that point. X is 4 and y is 10. For the green highlighted area, 10th week, that would be 10 for the x value, and the plant is 16 inches tall. Oops, I meant to change that to 13. Alright, so then we'll do the rest of the problem. First we need to find the slope. So the slope is the difference in the y values. So the y value of the first point is 10, so I'll call that y sub 1, and the y value of this one is 13. So you take y sub 2 minus y sub 1, so that part, the top part, will be 13 minus 10. Bottom, we do the x values. The x sub 1 is 4 and the x sub 2 is 10. We have to subtract those in the same order that we subtracted the y values. So this would be 10 minus 4. So 13 minus 10 is 3, 10 minus 4 is 6, and 3 over 6 simplifies to 1/2. So our slope is equal to 1/2. Now we're going to use that in the point-slope form of a line. So that's what m is going to be, is 1/2. Now we have to pick another point, or one of the points to use for x1 and y1. I picked the point 410. You might have picked the other point. That's fine. You'll get the same, you'll still get a correct equation either way. So y minus y1 is 10, equals 1/2. I already substituted that in. X minus x1 is 4. So I just substituted in y1 and x1 in this step. But a lot of times, especially in this problem, you have to then write that in slope-intercept form. To write this in slope-intercept form, I start by using the distributive property. So it says 1/2 on the right side, 1/2 times x, 1/2 times x, and then I have to take 1/2 times -4. So 1/2 times 4 is 2. So that simplifies to y minus 10 equals 1/2 x minus 2. All I did was use the distributive property. Now I need y equals, so I'm going to add 10 to both sides. And when I take minus 2 plus 10, I get positive 8. So this is now in slope-intercept form, y equals 1/2 x plus 8. So I've answered part of the question, but the other part of the question says find the y-intercept, which is the height of the plant when first transplanted. So when first transplanted, it's week 0, so I could plug 0 into this equation, 1/2 x plus 8. But 1/2 times 0 is 0, so I have 0 plus 8 is 8. Or I could have answered this question directly because the Y-intercept is what it would have been when I first transplanted it. That's like what I started with. So you could have answered that question without plugging in 0. And then for your assignment, you're going to choose 8 of the problems below to solve. And there's 11 of them, so you can skip 3. You make sure that you show all your work or explain all your answers. Each one of these needs an equation, so write an equation. Some of them you can write the equation right away, like number 1. It says to buy a car, Andrew puts in a down payment of $1,500 and pays $350 per month in installments. When you see something per month or per day or anything per, that's pretty good indication that this is going to be your slope, and you're going to be multiplying it by whatever, in this case, how many months. And then this is going to be your y-intercept. So in this one, you can write the equation right away in slope-intercept form. You can find the slope, you can find the y-intercept from the given information, and that will be your equation, so that's the first part. And then you'll have to solve that for y if x equals 12, which is how much he's paid at the end of 1 year, 12 months. Number 2 is very much like the example I just did, with some different values for this plant that Anne transplanted. Number 3 is very much like the example and like number 2, except that you're dealing with something different. So in this case, it says Ravi hangs from a giant exercise spring whose length is 5 meters. When his child Nimi hangs from the spring, its length is 2 meters. And then they give you some weights. Ravi weighs 160, Nimi weighs 40. So this spring is stretching based on how much somebody weighs. So Ravi weighs 160. Let's highlight that. And the spring stretches 5 meters at his weight. And he has a son named Nimi. Nimi weighs 40 pounds. And when he hangs on that exercise thing, it stretches only 2 meters. So you can use those to write the points from the given information. Then you find the slope, and then you use the slope in one of those points to write the equation in slope-intercept form. Now in this one, the rest of the question says you will need to do step 4, write it in slope-intercept form. And then it says, what should we expect the length of the spring to be when his wife, Armadeep, who weighs 140 pounds, hangs from it? So you're given some information that you can plug into the equation and then solve for the other variable. So very much like 2 and the example problem, just with different given information. Number 4 is similar, and so is 5. I want to look down at number 6. I put the points in for number 6 because this deals with a submarine that is surfacing, so it's below water. So I wanted to make sure that you notice that a depth of 400 feet would be negative 400, and a depth of 50 feet would be negative 50. Also, they only give us one time. It takes him 20 minutes. So he's starting at 0 minutes, and he's at negative 400 feet. And then 20 minutes later, he's at negative 50. So I helped you set up the points for this one, and then you'll do the rest of the problem similar. In number 7, we can right away write this in point slope form. So she's got a job selling window shades. She gets a monthly base salary and $6 commission for each window shade she sells. So again, here's an amount per something, in this case per window shade. So this is going to be the slope if you're given that you're going to be multiplying something. So we'll let the shades be X, and she's going to multiply each shade she sells by M, by $6. And then this is the y-intercept, which we don't know yet. You'll have to find that in this one. So the other information they give us is that she sold 200 shades and made $2,500. This is one of the points. So we know what the slope is. I said it was 6. So you can use that. And then here's the point that you can use for x1 and y1. and then you can plug that into this and then write it in slope-intercept form, which will help you find the Y-intercept, which is what we need for the monthly base salary. 8 and 9 are both similar. You're going to use standard form for this one. So in number 8, we're looking at a farmer's market. It sells tomatoes and corn. Tomatoes are selling for $1.29 per pound, and corn is selling for $3.25 per pound. We're not given the slope in this one. We're given two different things that they're selling and how much each of those cost. So the equation that we're going to write is that the cost of tomatoes, which is $1.29, times the pounds of tomatoes sold, which later they tell us is 6, plus the cost of corn, which they tell us is $3.25, times the number of pounds sold, which we don't know, we'll have to use X or Y for that, is equal to their total cash spent, which is $11.61. So cost of tomatoes $1.29, and I said, I think I made a mistake on my notes for this one. This should be the 6 right here, because it's 6 pounds of tomatoes sold, and then this one, they don't tell us how much corn you sold. So this would be, we're searching for how much corn is sold. So you just have to solve this equation. So 129 is the cost of tomatoes. Let me just go through this again, times 6 pounds of tomatoes. Yeah, those two go together. And then 325 for the corn times we don't know how much corn was sold is equal to 1161. And then we just need to solve this for our missing variable. And number 9 is very similar to that. 10 is also sort of similar, but it's a little bit different. So if you choose to do 10 and 11 and you need help, you can send me an email and I'll help you out. Thank you very much and have a great day.